In the shadows where we worked, there was a line one etched in blood and loyalty that you just don't cross. You protect the brotherhood, and the brotherhood protects you. They called us ghosts, phantoms sent to fix problems the world wasn't supposed to know existed. We were the nation's hidden blade, and our commander was the man holding the hilt. It's a man we trusted with our lives. But he broke that trust. He sent my brothers into the fire and then sold off the ashes. That was his first mistake, his second, the one that would be fatal for him and everyone he worked with. Was thinking the betrayal ended with me. He thought he could break me by going after the only thing I had outside the shadows, my family. He forgot that even a ghost can love. He forgot that the most dangerous man isn't the one with nothing to lose. It's the one who has everything that matters on the line. They came for my wife and my daughter. They branded me a traitor to cover their own crimes. But what they didn't get is that a Special Forces operator's greatest weapon isn't his rifle or his training. It's his promise. And I made a promise to myself, whispered into the dust over my team's graves. Every last one of them will pay. My name, or at least the one on my file, is Master Sergeant Elias Thorne. For 12 years, I was part of a unit so deep inside American Special Operations it barely had a name. The public knows about Delta Force, but our team was a scalpel within that team. Our missions were so sensitive that only a few people even knew we existed, and our successes were buried in reports that would never see the light of day. If we were ever exposed, we'd be plausibly denied. We were ghosts, and our commander, Colonel Marcus Vance, was the keeper of our world. Vance was more than just a CO. He was a mentor. A guy carved from the bedrock of the special ops community. He had a stare that could cut through lies and a voice that carried the weight of a dozen campaigns. He'd handpicked every man on my team. He knew our strengths, our weaknesses, and the names of our kids. His mantra was hammered into us from day one, the mission above all. We believed it because we believed in him. He was the one who would always bring us home, but the ghost had a life outside the gray. When the uniform came off, I wasn't Thorne, the operator. I was Elias, a husband, and a father. My home was a small, normal-looking house in Virginia, a little slice of peace defended by a white picket fence. My wife, Sarah, a brilliant art historian who loved the man, not the myth, made it our sanctuary. It was where my 8-year-old daughter Lily, with her bright, infectious laugh, could make me forget the darkness I walked through. One day, I could be running an op in a hostile city across the globe. The next, I'd be struggling to assemble a dollhouse covered in sawdust. That peace was my anchor. It was why I fought. Vance knew it too. He'd had dinner at our house. He'd told Lily stories and praised Sarah's cooking. He knew exactly what they meant to me. And in the hands of a traitor, that knowledge became the most dangerous weapon of all. The mission came straight from Vance, Operation Serpent's Head. The target was Omar al-Jamal, a ruthless ideologue gaining power in a lawless corner of the Middle East. Intel painted him as the next bin Laden. Our job looked simple on paper, but was incredibly tough to pull off. Get into his compound, capture or kill him, and get out before the local hornet's nest was fully stirred. It was the exact kind of high-stakes mission we were built for. The intel package was perfect, almost too perfect. It was listed as coming from DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. That should have been a major red flag. DARPA is the military's R&D wing. They invent future tech. They don't provide real-time intelligence for a strike team. But in the rush to deploy, we overlooked it. Vance's signature was on the bottom. It's all the proof we needed. We inserted on a moonless night, moving like specters through the jagged terrain. Every detail was spot on guard. Patrols, defenses, everything. We slipped past the perimeter, a 6-man team, silent and fluid. We stacked up to breach the main building. And then the world just exploded. This wasn't random insurgent fire. This was a professional hit, coordinated, Devastating explosions hit our entry and exit points at the same time. The gunfire wasn't from old Kalashnikovs. It was the crisp sound of modern weapons in expert hands. We were trapped in a kill box. My brother's men I'd bled with for years were cut down in seconds. A blast threw me back, shredded my leg with shrapnel, and all I could hear was the sudden, ringing silence of my team's comes. Wounded, I crawled behind a low wall, the taste of dust and betrayal in my mouth. I keyed my come, my voice a ragged whisper. Vance, we're compromised. Ambush, for a moment, there was just static. Then his voice came through, not with the urgency of a commander trying to save his men, but with a chilling, rehearsed calm. He wasn't talking to me. He was talking for the record. Copy that, Vance said, his voice cold and distant. Mission is a failure. All assets are lost. I repeat, all assets are KIA. Execute sanitization protocol. My blood ran cold. Sanitization. A word for erasing an operation. It's destroying all evidence, all gear, and all personnel. They weren't coming to save me. They were coming to eliminate me. I wasn't Master Sergeant Thorne anymore. I was a loose end. In that moment, surrounded by the bodies of my brothers, I understood. We weren't sent on a mission. We were sent to a slaughter. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to stay and fight, to die with my team. But another instinct took over, the need to know why. Dying here was the easy way out. Living meant finding the truth and making them answer. For it, I patched up my leg, the searing pain a constant reminder of Vance's treachery. And I started moving. Our exfil point was a remote airstrip, 12 clicks away, so it was my only shot. I moved through the night, a wounded animal fueled by adrenaline and rage. The training took over, shoving the pain and grief into a box in the back of my mind. Made it to the airstrip just before dawn, my body screaming. The plane wasn't there. Instead, I saw a team of operatives geared up with the same advanced equipment as the ambushers. They weren't military. They were the cleanup crew. My own. Command had sent them to hunt me. I slipped away, melting back into the landscape. My official channels were burned. I was a true ghost. Now no allies, no support. I had one last resort, a deep cover contact, a journalist I'd saved years ago. It took me 2 days of hell bartering for passage, dodging patrols, fighting. Off infection to get to a satellite phone. I made the call. His voice was strained. Elias, what did you do? Your face is everywhere. There's a burn notice, a kill in sight order. The official story is that you turned, that you sold out your team to Al Jamil for money. They're calling you a traitor. That word hit me harder than any bullet. Traitor. They didn't just leave me to die. They destroyed my name, my honor, and the memory of my team. Then the real horror of it all sank in. It wasn't just about erasing me. It was about controlling the story. My first thought was Sarah and Lily. I had to warn them. But before I could even make a plan, my contact delivered the final blow. Elias, they're not just after you. They froze your bank accounts, your family. They're under surveillance. There are federal agents outside your house right now. They've been put on a no-fly list. Leverage. My family, my sanctuary, my whole world turned into a cage. Then I saw it. I couldn't risk calling, but we had contingencies. I hacked into my own home security feed and listened as the man I once called my mentor delivered his poison. It was Vance's voice dripping with fake sympathy. Sarah, this is Colonel Vance. I am so sorry. Elias. He's in a lot of trouble. For your and Lily's safety, you need to cooperate. Help us find him. It's the only way to keep your family protected. That threat was crystal clear, wrapped in a blanket of concern. Cooperate, or the protection vanishes. That was the line. In that moment, the grief in my mind turned to pure, cold fury. The ghost was gone. The operator was gone. What was left was a husband and a father with a very specific set of skills and a new singular mission. I started making a list, seared into my mind. Didn't start with Vance. It started with the men on the ground. I'd work my way up the chain, one link at a time, until I got to the snake himself. The hunt was on. The first rule of taking down a conspiracy is to pull on the loose threads. My first thread was the mercenary crew that hit us. They weren't military assassins. They were too clean, their gear too perfect. They were private contractors. And mercs always leave a money trail, using my contacts, resources, and my own training. I traced the origin of their gear through a maze of shell corporations. It all led to one name: Ares Security, a private military corporation run by a man named Saul Richter, a former Wall Street shark who now sold patriotism for profit. This company and the events that follow are my own telling, a fictional account of what can happen when power corrupts. My first target wasn't Richter. It was his man on the ground, a former South African operator named Kruger. I tracked him to a villa in a neutral country. It wasn't a base, it was a luxury safe house for well-paid killers. Their security was good, but they guarded the doors. Not the shadows. I bypassed it easily. I found Kruger alone, enjoying a drink. He never saw me coming. I didn't talk to Kruger. I took the information I needed. For all his skills, he was no match for a man running on pure rage. He confirmed they were hired by Richter to hit our team. But here was the kicker. Their main job wasn't to kill us, was to get a satellite phone from Aljamel's body. The ambush was just a violent cleanup to make sure there were no witnesses, and the intel that led us into the trap. It came directly from Colonel Vance. The next link was Vance's source inside DARPA. Kruger didn't have a name, just that there was someone on the inside. I cross-referenced personnel files with our mission timeline and narrowed it down to one person: Dr. Anya Sharma. Finding her was different. She was a civilian analyst, not a soldier. I couldn't use the same tactics I used on Kruger, one-cornered. Her in a university library archive, a place she visited for research. No weapons, just the crushing weight of the truth. I didn't threaten her life. I threatened her conscience. I showed her the photos of my dead team. I told her what happened. She broke down, admitting Vance had blackmailed her over a minor security mistake, threatening to ruin her career. She said Aljamil wasn't a terrorist. He was an informant about to expose a massive corporate crime. An illegal field test of a new weapons system, Project Chimera, secretly funded by Richter's Ares Security. Our mission was a lie. We were sent to silence a whistleblower, and our deaths were meant to be the cover story and a live-fire demo. For Richter's new tech. Through all this, my family was my first priority. I couldn't call them, but Sarah and I had a system, disguised as a game we played with Lily. Through coded emails, I guided them. Remember our camping trip to Sparrow Lake? Time to pack the red tent. That meant grab the emergency bag. Lily's favorite pirate story, the one about escaping the island. That was the signal for an escape route we'd memorized. Within 48 hours, Sarah and Lily vanished. They were safe. And with them safe, I was finally untethered. The hunter was free to focus on his prey. The final targets were clear: Saul Richter, the corporate ghoul profiting from my team's blood, and Colonel Marcus Vance, the man I once trusted with my life. Sharma's confession gave me what I needed. Richter and Vance were about to have one last meeting to sign the contracts that would make them both ridiculously rich. The deal would sell the Chimera system, the one illegally tested on my men, to the U.S. government. The meeting was at a secure Ares data facility in Virginia, a fortress of concrete and steel. They thought they were untouchable. But they built their fortress to keep the world out, not to keep a ghost in. Getting inside was almost easy. I moved through the gaps in their cameras, used a homemade EMP to fry sensors, and climbed an elevator shaft to bypass their scanners. I was a phantom in their perfect machine. I went for Richter first. It was in his glass-walled office, a monument to his own ego. He was on a video call laughing. The look of smug satisfaction on his face melted into pure terror when he saw my reflection in the glass. He fumbled for a panic button, but it was too late. I put him in his chair, started a recorder, and told him I knew everything. His arrogance kicked back in. "You can't prove any of this," he sneered. "It's the word of a dead man. Vance planned it all. Your team's death was the cost of doing business. A sales pitch. He admitted everything. A full confession from a man who thought he was above it all. That's all I needed." I left Richter tied to his chair with his confession, looping on his computer, and went for Vance. He was in a conference room, alone, looking at the signed contracts. He didn't look surprised to see me. He just looked disappointed. "I knew you'd make it, Elias," he said calmly. "There's no one better. That's why I chose your team." He launched into some twisted speech about the greater good. "Look at the world, Elias. Our enemies are evolving. We need better weapons. To get them, you need industry. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices. Your team's death bought this country the next generation of warfare." "They didn't sacrifice," I shot back, my voice low and dangerous. "They were sold. You sold them for a seat on a board and a pile of blood money. You spit on their memory and used their flag-draped coffins as a stage." I stepped closer. "Came for my family." The mask finally dropped. His face hardened. They were insurance. He reached for a gun under the table, but I was already moving. The fight was brutal and personal. It's calculated treachery against my raw rage. Mentor against student. Every block, every strike was an exorcism of 12 years of loyalty. I broke him down, disarmed him, and left him gasping on the floor. A pathetic, defeated man. Killing him would have been too easy. I left him alive with Richter's confession playing on a device next to him. Justice wasn't a bullet. It was exposure. I walked away from that facility and vanished. But I left a firestorm behind me. I anonymously leaked everything: Richter's confession, Sharma's testimony, the data on Project Chimera, and Vance's financials to every major news outlet I could find. The fallout was biblical. Story of a Tier 1 team betrayed by their own commander for corporate profit exploded into a massive Pentagon scandal. While the specific events of my story are a work of fiction, the potential for such betrayal resonates with the historical reality of personal grievances and cover-ups within military structures. Vance and Richter were arrested. Ares security was buried under lawsuits and federal investigations. And Master Sergeant Elias Thorne, the traitor, was publicly exonerated and declared a hero who died in the ambusha, convenient lie that let the government save face. Months later, I found Sarah and Lily in a small, quiet town thousands of miles from the life we knew. We were finally reunited. The men responsible had paid, but the cost was immeasurable. I'd lost my brothers, my career, my name, and my faith in the system I swore to defend. The ghost was finally at rest. I was no longer an operator or a soldier, just a husband and a father, forever looking over my shoulder. The war was over, but peace was a fragile, scarred thing. The real victory wasn't the revenge. It was the quiet moment of watching my daughter laugh, a sound that cost me everything to protect. This story is about what happens when the most sacred lines are not just crossed, but obliterated. It's a testament to the fact that when you push a good man to the edge and threaten his entire world, you don't create a victim. You forge a weapon. The ultimate price of betrayal isn't just life, it's honor. And for those who trade honor for power, there will always be ghosts from the past coming to collect the debt.